Hello, Amy. I'm so excited.
Amy.
Technology worked. I'm like, Amy, it worked. Welcome to my Polish My Pitch podcast. And I'm so happy to have you, my good friend Amy. And I'm going to start the timer and have you introduce yourself and do your elevator pitch. So go for it.
All right. Okay. I equip women to break through their invisible barriers, leverage their strengths so they can create a positive ripple of impact in the world. And that's most of what I say.
Okay, perfect. All right. So do I have your permission to polish?
Oh, please, polish.
Polish away. All right.
Polish away.
Polish away. So I would love it. And because we belong to the same mastermind, I know a little bit about your work. But when you're meeting someone who doesn't know you, I would love it if you could get more specific about what kind of women in terms of either an industry or an interest group.
Okay, so I stay out of industry and I'm more focused on listening for a woman who's really on fire to create an impact.
Right. But so when I help my clients get more clients, they are trying to get concentrations of your target. So the only people gather by their same ilk is if they have the same interest, like yoga or
I hear what you're saying. So women who they're either social venture entrepreneurs, so they're taking care of one of the world's big health problems, social problems. They're addressing something related to the social or health determinants of health. So maybe they're in water, maybe they're in providing microloans. They have an environmentally friendly product. They're taking care of the planet, something related to that. So they're in the health or social industries, not necessarily in an organization. If they're in an organization, they'd be in senior leader, ready to influence the direction of the organization to address a health or social concern.
Right. So what I want for you is for you to regularly have roomfuls of orgies of clients who are at least 70% a match for what you can do. And the only way that people unfortunately gather is, as you said, like it would be healthcare entrepreneurs, or it would be, social based entrepreneurs.
Social venture.
Social venture entrepreneurs. Are there in fact groups, organizations, associations that gather in regular meetings in those areas?
Sure. So there's CEO for one. That would be the first one that comes to mind for social venture startups. But then there's anyone who's in sort of digital health transformation, innovation in health, academia, and then typically there's a health transformation conference every year as well that sort of gets at health from a variety of different angles.
Great. So now that we know, and the ideal for me is that they have a monthly, it's the same industry or group of entrepreneurs who gather monthly. They could have a yearly conference and they could have a big trade show, but I don't want you to be marketing just once a year. I want you to be constantly in their face, hitting them all the time with your messaging and your presence. So that's the marketing part of it. So let's say started your elevator pitch by saying, I help healthcare entrepreneurs do what? What is the most expensive problem that you solve for them?
The invisible barriers that hold them back from actually speaking up, standing up, taking a stand, making a bold move. So invisible barriers being their inner critic, their imposter syndrome, feeling overwhelmed, making too many commitments, and then they're not focused, not speaking up for fear of being criticized, comparison, all of those.
So what does that cause for an entrepreneur? For a healthcare,
it causes them to play small. They play small and they can't create the impact that they want to see in the world.
Right. And does that mean that their sales are small or their number of clients are small? Like what is small? Is it that they're...
Yeah, both. I mean, by small meaning they can't generate revenue in a way that they want to generate revenue. They can't influence the thought leaders or the people who are in positions of power greater than them to make change, to take bold action. They're not influential because they're keeping their thoughts to themselves, their ideas quiet. Does that help?
Absolutely. So I'm getting a much more clearer picture, and I'm trying to like focus it down. So if you were
Okay.
at a a healthcare entrepreneur conference, and you met someone who you hope is a healthcare entrepreneur, and you would say to them, did you know that, and I don't know if you know the actual statistic around it, but you know that I'm big on stats because it proves to people they're not alone, they're not a loser. So I would say something like 3 out of 4 of you guys, healthcare entrepreneurs that are in this room, are not making over, $50,000 a year or whatever, over $100,000 a year, no matter how many years they've been in business, because they are, don't trust themselves, have the imposter syndrome, and have invisible barriers internally, that stops them from going forward. Well, what I do is I help them. How do you help them?
First, with awareness to see the barrier, and then we develop strategies. So there's different ways we develop strategies. Sometimes it's through advising, teaching, coaching, practicing, but creating strategies that help them take steps to break through the barriers.
Great. So, the biggest component that was missing in your elevator pitch was the actual result or the actual consequence of what they are faced with as a result of their lack of inner self. And that result is lack of sales. And it is a very different elevator pitch, Amy, if you're talking to executives, because in that case, maybe that's career advancement, or in executives, maybe it's influencing the board. So, that's why, like, you have to pick one group to speak to their pain, whoever you're in front of, right?
So you can have two pitches. I can have two pitches, right? One for my org clients and one for my entrepreneurial clients. So I just change what the impact is.
Yeah, I mean, from a strategy standpoint, I think you're stronger if you concentrate in one, because in marketing terms, it takes 7 to 12 touches of marketing, like touch points with them. So they see a video of you, they meet you somewhere, or they see you speaking somewhere. Those are all touch points, or they get your newsletter, or they read something about you in LinkedIn. These are touch points. But when you dilute them into both executives who hang out somewhere else and read different things versus entrepreneurs who are like all about their world, you're diluting your efforts and the touch points and your marketing efforts, like your marketing messages. That's why it takes longer for people who are like scattered. Does that
Got it? Yeah. And if I could ask a question, do we have time for a question? So I know the impact that, we honed in on was sales. What if the listening, like if you're a mission-driven entrepreneur, right? You've got a big, hairy mission to change the frickin' world when it comes to some health innovation. And the language of sales maybe just doesn't land.
It may not be what they're after, Amy. You have to ask them and say, what is the biggest problem that you have as a result of not being able to stick up for yourself, or not being able to speak up, or not being able to be visible and step on a stage, whatever the problem is. First of all, I really think you should probably hone the problem too, because like it's all over the board and it's too generic to say it's your internal voice. Like, pick one problem. So it could be that, visibility, or pick the one problem of it could be negative self-talk. Whatever, and I know they're all related, I totally get it, but just pick one way of talking, just one part of it to talk about first.
One part. Okay.
Yeah. And then
expand if they're interested.
Yeah, ask them, because you only have 30 seconds, right? Less even, for their attention. So then you say, do you know that 3 out of 4 of you guys, you entrepreneurs, self-talk yourself out of a sale, or self-talk yourself out of doing a speech, or self-talk yourself out of doing a newsletter, whatever the one pain point is that's most prevalent. And did you know that causes you not to reach as many people as you wanted? So you have to ask them what the problem they think is the most painful. So,
I guess I was going off what we learned from the book, but that was a more generic pool. It wasn't specific to health and social venture.
Yeah, and it could be very different.
Okay.
Change in time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's really helpful. That's great.
I know. We went over time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's okay. I'm so
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much. All the best.